There was an old guy standing outside of a train station, waiting for a taxi cab to arrive, on the corner of a busy intersection, holding up a sign which read Hillsbury Bakery. An hour passed by. A taxi cab pulls up alongside the guy, lets down the window and says, "Hey, old guy, why don't you go to that hill and take a hike?" Lets up his window and speeds off, leaving the old guy yelling, "You scumbag," in the background. 2 hours pass by. The same taxi cab driver pulls up alongside the old guy, lets down his window and yells, "Hey, old guy, why don't you go to that hill I told you about and take a hike?" Lets up his window and speeds off, leaving the old guy yelling, "You scumbag," in the background. 3 hours pass by. The same taxi cab driver pulls up alongside the old guy, lets down his window and yells, "Hey, old guy, I thought I told you to go to that hill and take a hike." Lets up his window and then speeds off, leaving the old guy yelling, "You scumbag," once more in the background. Well, the traffic began to grow light, the night began to grow dim, and finally the same taxi cab driver pulls up alongside the guy once more. Says, "Hey, old guy, hop in." The old guy gets in the car. The taxi cab driver drives no more than a block up the hill, lets the guy out, right there in front of the sign which read Hillsbury Bakery. The old guy gets out and looks at the taxi cab driver and says, "Why didn't you tell me it was so close?" The taxi cab driver looks back at the old guy and says, "Well, I tried to tell you to go to the hill and take a hike." How many times do we overlook what people are trying to tell us, thinking that we have it all figured out for ourselves? I want you to write this down. It's not the signs that you see, but the ones that you miss that matter the most. I was having a conversation with an old friend of mine about 2 weeks ago in the lounge of the W Hotel, downtown Atlanta off of Ivan Allen Boulevard. And she began to express to me her aspirations of now wanting to become a nutritionist and help people eat healthy and get on the right type of diets. I looked at her, and in all seriousness, I said, "You don't have to wait to do that. Start now." So many times we think we need this accolade, this achievement, this type of accomplishment, this type of milestone achieved, this job, this promotion. And if you keep waiting for everything to be perfect, I've got news for you. You're going to be waiting forever. The signs are so obvious every day along our path. I mean, literally, the signs can be as obvious as a billboard saying, "Hey, I'm your dream right here. Come follow me." But see, the problem is not the lack of signs. The problem is that we are just not paying attention. One of my all-time favorite movies is called Fools Rush In. It's about a Mexican and a Caucasian couple who decide to make the rush decision to get married after the bride gets pregnant during a night of passion. Well, after a series of events, the bride comes to the conclusion that she's made this terrible decision. And so just when she's about to leave, she begins to notice all the signs that she's been ignoring the whole time through, which ultimately leads her back to the groom, which she quote unquote fell in love with to begin with. So many times we make things so complex. I can't tell you how many times growing up people told me, "You know, Horace, you really have a talent here. You really should consider taking it more seriously." But as far as I was concerned, I was going to live my life how I had planned to live it. And it's funny because no matter how much we try to run from our purpose, no matter how much we try to ignore those blatant signs, life always seems to, in the words of the old adage, come back around full circle. Sometimes you have to discover what's not for you in order to discover what is. I did. But just like that old guy holding up that sign, waiting for that taxi cab, in the words of my mama, I could have saved myself a whole lot of heartache and pain. It's not the signs that we see, but the ones that we miss that matter the most. Lastly, there was a young fella who entered into a restaurant wanting to go and see a blind date. He went all the way to the back of the restaurant, sat down, and the waiter comes up to him, pours him a glass of water and says, "Sir, if there's anything that you need, let me know." Well, the young fella sat there, 3 to 4 parties scattered in, an hour passed by, still no sign of his blind date. The waiter came back up to him, poured him another glass of water, and said, "Sir, if there's anything that you need, just let me know." Well, another 3 to 4 parties scattered into the restaurant, another hour passed by, still no sign of his blind date. The waiter comes back up to the guy, pours him another glass of water and says, "Sir, if there's anything that you need, just let me know." Another 3 to 4 parties scatter in. Another hour passed by. Still no sign of the guy's blind date. The waiter walks back up to the young fella, pours him another glass of water and says, "Sir, we'll be closing soon. I apologize, but it seems that your date never arrived." The young fella looks back at the waiter and says, "No, you see, that party that you seated 3 hours ago right there next to the door, well, she's sitting there with them, and I didn't want her to see me walk out of the front door. But they've been taking an awfully long time to leave." The waiter looks back at the young fella for a second, strangely, and then he says, "But sir, you're sitting right up under the exit sign. You could have left and snuck out of the back door hours ago." See, it's not the signs that we see, but the ones that we miss that matter the most. Why wait?